Live from the Pitch Pad in New York City. Get ready to unleash your inner entrepreneur with Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the Shark Tank, this is the place to be to discover how to turn your pitch into reality. Fasten your seatbelts, pitch stars, because the spotlight is on you and we are about to make success happen. On this episode of Pitch Live,
one of the very first things is you ask me to get coffee. I get out of the car and I spill the coffee. I'm just like, oh, way to go, Melody. And you didn't even yell at me. You're just like, it's okay. And the coffee was just all on your ankles.
It's so funny you mentioned that because all the interns I've ever worked for me, of course, I never asked them to go get me coffee or dry cleaning or any of those ridiculous tasks.
Get ready for Pitch Live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Pitch Live. I'm your host, Amy Summers, founder and president of Pitch Publicity and Anisi Vox. I'm also a hardworking entrepreneur who is passionate about helping you reach success in any area of your life. And I know that this is possible after decades of experience in perfecting the pitch and enhancing communication skills, which is why I'm here today and joined by Melody Stampley, who is one of our former and forever pitch stars, whose journey with Pitch Publicity began as an intern in the summer of 2013, way before I started calling everyone a pitch star. So she's probably like, I don't know what's going on right now. Welcome, Melody.
Thank you so much, Amy, for having me here today.
Now, before we get into the details of your bio, I like to do a little quick fire round of questions with you so our audience can kind of get a feel for you, who you are without a full introduction. So I'm just going to ask a few questions and give you 2 choices to answer. So don't think about it. Just give me your first reaction. You ready?
Okay.
All right. Cash or credit?
Cash.
Cash. I like that. So old school. Work from home or at the office?
From home.
See, we started her early, working remotely.
Yep.
Okay, beach or mountains?
I'd probably have to go with the beach.
Okay, see, South Florida girl right here. Book or movie?
Ooh, book.
Okay. So far you're answering just the way I thought you would. So I feel like I still know you after 10 years. This is good. All right, this is the hardest question though. Albert or Alberta?
I have to go with Alberta. Sorry, Albert.
She just had a big birthday this year too. Did you see that?
Did not know that.
She turned 40.
Oh, okay. Go Alberta.
All right. Well, Melody has pitched media as a publicist for many of our clients until she graduated from the University of Florida in August of 2014 with a bachelor's degree in public relations. She then continued her education at Florida International University, earning her master's in communication in 2017. And recently, just this year, in 2024, she became a certified educator in personal finance from the Institute of Financial Literacy. Wow, that is a big leap from PR to finance. So I can't wait to get into that. Melody's passion for personal finance sparked in 2020. The same year, she paid off nearly $25,000 in debt and became a certified Ramsey Solution Master Financial Coach, a certified Connect Financial Ministries financial coach. And she also started her own personal finance consulting business, Centsible Finance. Since then, she's been on a mission to help others take control of their finances, whether through one-on-one coaching, hosting financial literacy workshops for children and teens, or leading financial discipleship studies through Compass Financial Ministries. Now, a full-time stay-at-home mom, Melody is even more driven to teach sound financial principles to future generations, empowering them to make smart money choices early on. So welcome again, Melody, officially. I'm so excited to catch up with you today and just discover how you make success happen, or as we call it here, MSH. And during the past decade, since you've interned at Pitch, you've done quite a lot of things. So I'm really excited to get into it.
Thank you so much again, Amy. I'm really excited. So good to see you.
All right. Well, before we get into what you're doing now with all the finance things, which I have tons of questions for you there, I was looking back at the very first schedule I ever gave you on day one. And I had you start pitching one of our doctors, a Dr. Christine Horner. And I see that I even had you start with pitching her on radio shows first day. So,
Yeah.
what was it like getting on the phone and pitching radio hosts and producers on your very first day as a college student interning for me?
It was really intimidating. I am an introvert by heart, um, and I think I can put on a good like front if I'm nervous or anything like that. But I was just my heart was just pumping whenever somebody answered the phone. I was just like, "Hi," I would always start with "How are you," which is what I do now. But it was so intimidating because they didn't really care about like exchanging pleasantries. So that was the hardest part to get over.
Journalists are very direct. They don't have time for how are you doing? How's the weather? So you
Yeah.
pitched a lot of our clients as I was thumbing through all the schedules and looking at everything that you did for me. It was a very busy time. Uh, was there one that really stood out to you or made a lasting impression that you remember?
I really felt like there were a few that made some lasting impressions, but I would have to go with David Foreman, only because he was the herbal pharmacist, and that like really intrigued me. Nothing against medicine, but I like just trying the kind of natural route first, if at all possible. So I really liked what I was learning from him. So he is the most memorable one for me.
Now, um, I wanted to ask, you said that it kind of it was nerve-wracking in the beginning. You're a little bit of an introvert pitching. What kept you motivated to pitch media every day for me? And how did you build that endurance to keep going? Because it can get kind of monotonous too.
Yeah, I think for me is I'm very I don't like it could be a strength and a weakness, but I don't like to be able to say I can't do something. I'd rather just push through it and just see how much I can learn. And so it was really difficult at first, but I just don't like being able to just walk away from something saying I couldn't do it. So I wanted to prove it to myself and of course to you. And be an exemplary employee or intern, I should say. That just kept me motivated. I just don't like to quit.
I do remember that about you specifically. You were very determined. And I really liked that about you and appreciated that about you.
Thank you.
What did you learn about yourself through that process of pitching? You said you were an introvert. How did it shape your confidence as a student?
Honestly, I didn't realize that even though I'm an introvert, how much I enjoyed and appreciate connection. So again, the whole just not wanting to exchange pleasantries was just so jarring for me. Like, I really want to know, how are you doing? Maybe not so much the weather, but we could talk about it if you want to. So I just realized that I do need that connection, and I love just letting people know that I'm thinking about them and caring about them. And so I think that that kind of just allowed me to just kind of find myself after my college years and interning with Pitch.
That's interesting that it kind of pulled that feeling of wanting to be more personable out.
Yeah.
Now we did do some things in person. I remember there were a couple of events. One I remember was that you helped me promote a golf tournament for a client. It was Florida Players Network. So these are was a group of former University of Florida football players, and we were on the golf course for this fundraising event. And you were helping me organize media there. What stood out to you from that experience?
Other than the fact that everybody was so huge, like they were just so tall. Just the fact that everybody just seemed so genuine, catching up with each other because these were people who, they played at one time, or maybe they'd never met each other. They were just kind of from different generations, and they still were able to just connect on football or whatever it was. And a lot of ex-football players or athletes, I should say, they go and play golf, and it was just interesting just to see how they kind of network and laugh, and they brought their families with them. So that was nice to see.
Yeah, it was really like a community, and you're right. It's like they had one thing in common, that they used to play football for the University of Florida, but whether they were like a star player or like third string, if that's what you call it in football, they all just having that one thing in common, they kind of came together.
Yeah, yeah.
Did it did meeting the media in person and kind of seeing that in action, did that change things for you? Because previously you were just on the phone, and you talked about that, not their abruptness and not having that connection. Did you see a softer side of the media?
I did actually. I did. I guess maybe they're just not as busy when they're in person and at an event because they can just focus on that moment. So they can just kind of let their hair down and breathe a little bit. So yeah, I was very pleased to see that, sometimes first impressions are wrong.
They are people too. Do you remember what your proudest pitch moment was, or something that you're really proud about during the internship?
Yeah, when you called me your booking queen.
Uh,
Yeah, I was just like, "Oh, okay, like, that's awesome, that's a great nickname," and you just kept doing it, you just kept calling me that, so I knew that I was doing a good job.
That's interesting. So, me saying that to you, did it did you feel like you were that? Did it help you, like, morph into that?
Honestly, I, have a sense of kind of, like, not thinking as highly of myself as other people do, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just don't recognize things that people notice about me, so, I really appreciated when you said that, and I don't know if you know about the 5 love languages, but for me, one of my primary ones is words. Just kind of the compliment at least lets me know what people think about me, and I take it to heart. I usually remember those good things, so
That's really, meaningful that you mentioned that, because I don't remember doing that, but it just goes to show, the smallest compliment, or just, like you say, putting a good nickname to someone. This is such a great message for bosses, because you really aspire to that level because of that. Encouraging words, where I think a lot of times bosses are told to not encourage, not to show that so much, because for some reason they think that that's going to make their employees work harder. Have you ever been in an environment that was more like that, where you weren't getting the encouragement?
I think I'm very blessed to say that I have been in more environments than not where the encouragement was there. But yeah, I've had experience with some where you just kind of don't know where you stand, and you either have to ask or just have that confidence in yourself and know that if you are hardworking, genuinely, then you're doing okay. And if you're still employed, I mean, they probably would have gotten rid of you or had some meeting or something like that if you're not doing a good job.
Yeah, I think it's hard to play the guessing game. So, I love that that's what you remember. I thought you were going to say something like a campaign or some booking that you got. That really means a lot to me that you remember that. But I think it just goes to show the power of words when you're working with people and building people up, how important that is, because you clearly, I mean, you're running your own business now, so you are the booking queen. Um, Before we stop reminiscing here, I do want to reflect on one more big thing that I brought you to, big media event, because you're the only one out of all the interns I've worked with that actually got to see this. So during the time that Melody was interning with us at Pitch Publicity, I took on a massive project pro bono, by the way. Was not getting paid for it. But I really did it more just because I thought it would look really good in our portfolio, and it would challenge me personally to another level. So I agreed to work with Fabian Cousteau on his Mission 31. He was attempting to break his grandfather's record, Jacques Cousteau, of living under the water for 31 days. Jacques Cousteau had lived under the water for 30 days. So I literally was camped out in Isla Mirada in the Florida Keys for a few months while this international media event was going on. I remember Melody, along with a few other interns I had at that time, they were literally running Pitch. Like the paying clients, they were taken care of and they were booking media. I was solely working with this non-paying client just so that we could rack up some pitch fame to our portfolio. I couldn't have done it without you during that time. I'm sure I didn't even tell you all that because it probably would have been too intimidating to know that if you failed on any level, we would not have any money. But I didn't tell you that, and you did it anyway. But I remember at the end, so no one really got to work with me on Mission 31 except Melody. Like at the very end, the Fabian and his aquanauts were coming up out of the ocean and emerging for the first time. And we were holding a press conference, and I've never seen a room more packed with media. And I was so surprised because I thought nobody's going to come. We're in the Florida Keys. It's so hard to get here. And there they were. They were there. That we even had like a virtual conference going on at the same time, so people around the world could like tune in on video and watch this. And this is 10 years before all this video conferencing stuff became the norm. So it was very new to us. So we were trying to figure it out. But because Melody was, I don't even know, were you in South Florida at that time or were you in Gainesville when I asked you to come down?
I was in South Florida,
Okay.
Broward County.
And I just remember thinking, well, this will be a good experience for her. All she has to do is drive down here and work with me, and this will be a good experience. What do you remember about that time that you spent with me? What was that like for you?
I'm laughing because I remember the one of the very first things is you asked me to get coffee for you and somebody else. And I get there and I get out of the car and I spill the coffee. I'm just like, "Oh, way to go, Melody." I felt horrible. And you didn't even like yell at me. You're just like, "It's okay." Like, and the coffee was just all on your ankles and you didn't yeah, I was just thanking God. I'm just like, "Thank you that she didn't like fire me." I felt so bad.
Devil Wears Prada moment on you.
Thank you so much for not doing that. That was just so awful. But we all make mistakes, and that's one thing that I know and live by every single day.
It's so funny you mentioned that because all the interns I've ever worked for me, of course, I never asked them to go get me coffee or dry cleaning or any of those ridiculous tasks. But sometimes when I do pull you in person, it's funny because it's like, okay, we do need those things. And they're always like, I brought an intern up to New York recently and I said, okay, you have to run and go get coffee. And she's like, I don't even know how to make coffee. I'm like, you better learn because I've been nice enough not to make you learn how to do coffee. But your next job will probably make you do only coffee for like
Right.
a year.
Oh my god. Oh my
That's
goodness.
so funny that you had that experience. Was there anything else that stood out from that? It was such a large event.
Yeah, I really enjoyed just seeing the preparation, just the build up, because I remember we had to wait a little bit. We knew exactly when to expect Fabian Cousteau to just come up out of the water, but there was a lot of I don't know if you remember, like I don't know if this is the right term, but like decompressing or because when they come up, they had to do it slowly, and had to be very careful, or else it would be really life threatening, I
It would have
believe.
been another media event.
A very
Kind you
bad.
don't want.
Yeah. So I just remember the build up and everybody was just in such anticipation and just talking about it. And I had no idea about his grandfather, Jacques. So to know that some people had actually heard about that previous event from his grandfather and they also knew about this. So it was exciting. And just seeing that people could have fun. Even me, I got to have some like free time taking photos and I stayed in a wonderful hotel thanks to you. And your friends were awesome. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was nice for you and I just to connect on a different level too that we probably didn't have as much time to do, when
Yeah.
we're just working remotely. which I want to shift to next because another pioneering thing that Melody did with us at Pitch Publicity was we were 100% remote, way before it was cool. I switched over in 2010 at Pitch Publicity to start running everything remotely. And so you really learned how to do that. Now it's a little bit more the norm. How has the experience of working remotely through our internship early on shaped your work habits and prepare you for the work you're doing now?
It really taught me from early on to just be disciplined and self-motivated. I think a lot of employers are looking for people who are self-motivated. It's kind of like cliche now. You have to be self-motivated. And I don't think we realize how serious that is because there's so many distractions when you're working from home. I remember being in my dorm as an intern for you, and my TV was right above the desk. So I could just flip on the TV and just, kind of multitask, but not that anything's wrong with some multitasking. That kind of multitasking can be really distracting, counterproductive, even if you are, literally typing while doing that. So it just really taught me discipline and just setting some goals, even if your boss doesn't give you goals, which you did. But if you are in a position where you don't really know exactly what you're supposed to be achieving every single week or month, do it for yourself so that way you have something to look forward to when you start your day remotely.
Were there specific skills that you picked up from your time at Pitch that you're still using today?
Yeah, I'm a proofer by heart. So I know that you would send me things and just have me look over editing and things like that. I love that. But definitely also just being organized before you get started on something. So you were really organized. We had sheets and schedules of people. So, if somebody asks, oh, sure, we can, get Dr. Horner in for a segment, a 15-minute segment or 5-minute segment. What's her schedule like? I had it right there. And I also looked over it before I even got on the phone. So that way I just kind of knew it in my head, but I could also look down at the paper when they asked as well. So just preparation, that's really good in my field now, because if I have to talk to somebody and they ask me a question, at least I know and I'm kind of prepared for what they may ask. And just be prepared to just say, you know what, I don't know, but I will find out. That's the best thing, to just not make up stuff. And I'll admit I did make up some stuff just so I wouldn't look bad. And that's just so bad to do. If you don't know, just say you don't know. It's better than just pretending.
Melody, I love that you say that because I tell all my interns that exactly what you just said. So it stuck with you. So I'm so glad to hear that. Don't make it up.
Yeah.
Just tell them you don't know and you'll get back to them. Um, all right. So you're working from home now, right? You have your own business, you're working from home. You're also a stay-at-home mom. How
Yep.
do you balance everything? What's worked for you and what hasn't worked for you now that you're in this new phase? Because you're a new mom.
Yep.
How have you had to change things up, or what would be your advice to other people that are in a similar situation?
I what I found that works is just to split my time up. So, and that's the luxury that you get with working from home. A lot of times, you get to create your own schedule as long as you get the work done. You're productive. It doesn't really matter what time you work. So, I split it up. I basically do most of my work when my son is sleeping. So early in the morning, a couple hours during his nap time, which I don't know when he's going to drop his nap. So, I would accept all the moral support, prayers, and thoughts for when that happens, because 'cause I'll have to cross that bridge when I get there and rework that. But just split it up if you can, and I lay the expectations out. So I freelance, right? I also work for a ministry, and so right off the bat, I let everybody know, "Hey, this is how my schedule is. Is it okay that as long as I get it done by the deadline that is that okay if I'm not available at 9 AM?" And so that way you have flexibility and nobody is concerned with them not hearing from you for an hour or 2.
I like that. I like that you're upfront and you set the boundaries up initially and just let people know. I think that's really important. I think so many times we're afraid to do that. We're afraid to let people know that we're not working within their structure. But anytime anybody does that to me, I'm usually okay with it. It's when they don't tell me what they're doing and then I can't reach them, I get frantic as a boss. So I love that you just say, "Hey, this is what's happening right now, and is that okay?"
Yeah, it's
I mean,
very
the worst they're gonna
important.
say is no, right?
Exactly.
And then at least you know.
Yeah, and then you can look for something else. There are a lot of employers who are catering to the needs of their employees because they want to keep them. They need retention.
Exactly. I wanna talk about the first professional job you had. Were you working at a publishing group? Can you tell us about that
Um,
first job out?
Yeah, so I had a couple stints at other places and there were layoffs and everything. So Agora really was a great financial publishing company. So what they did was they published independent investing newsletters. And those newsletters would be marketed to people who typically had some disposable or discretionary income. So they just had money where they could invest. They didn't really have fixed income, or maybe they did, but they wanted to invest anything extra they saw. So they would subscribe to those newsletters instead of just investing in the S&P 500. What I did was I started as a proofer, of course, and then I was promoted to assistant managing editor and eventually managing editor. So what we called gurus were people who they worked on Wall Street at one time in their lives, and then they decided to go independent. And they would just recommend different investments that you could buy into, and they would give detailed instructions. And my job was just to make sure that it made sense, and keep them on track, and say, hey, this is what you're missing. Just be an editor, and include the things that they may not think of because they have a financial mindset and we have our reader's mindset in mind.
Now, did that I didn't realize that that was their specialty, but did that kinda start sparking your interest in finance, or what really made you switch in 2020 to start your own business?
Well, it's very interesting. So I always enjoyed reading personal financial articles, literally from when I was like 10. My mom let me open my own bank account at that point. Obviously, it was a UTMA, one of those things where she was the custodian, but I really was hands on with that kind of experience. And so when I applied for that job, I was like, I would like to learn more about investing because I don't know much about it at all. I just know that you're supposed to invest. But as I sat in my role as, I think it was proofer at that time, the guru, the financial expert that whose content I always edited, he always said something like, "This is why I do what I do." He grew up in foster care in England, um, moved to the United States eventually at like 16. He was working for a very large company and he made it all, but then he went bankrupt in like a day. He lost everything. He almost committed suicide. And so he built that up. And he had family. He had a family at that time, and he was just determined that no, I'm not going to live this way. And so that motivated him to help other people not make the mistakes that he did in investing. And he always just said, "This is why I do what I do." I had read that 50 times before that one day. And when I read that one day for maybe the 51st time, I sat there and I was just like, God, here is a man who knows exactly why he's here. Why don't I? And I got really down. I was really emotional. And I mean, I even get emotional now just talking about it. I had a come to Jesus moment, literally. And so I went home, I talked to my cousin that weekend, and I was just transparent with her. I didn't want to say anything, but I did. And I just kind of like was woe is me. I told her I'm not good at anything. I don't like anything. I don't enjoy anything. And she listened for about 5, 10 minutes. And then she talked and she was like, but you've always been sharing advice on how you can save and things like that with me. And I'm like 13 years your senior. And you've been doing that since you were in like elementary school. And I hadn't realized that. I'd been enjoying these things for so long and had not realized that. I had to have somebody who was close to me say that to me. And so then I just went on a journey of just learning, exploring, researching financial careers. And I landed on financial coaching. That's when I did the Ramsey training and other trainings. And this year with the Institute for Financial Literacy, I started my company. I said, you know what, now that I know what my passion is, there's no holding me back. I'm going to help people and I'm going to do it in the way that brings me joy and that will bring them joy.
That story really gives me chills. I have the chills right now because, I mean, just very similar to your biggest memory from Pitch, me calling you a booking queen, your cousin seeing in you what she always saw in you. And I think that is such a good lesson for all of us on how we can mentor others. I mean, basically, she was mentoring you in that moment, right?
Yeah,
Because part of mentorship, I believe, is telling people what they see in them. And because I think it's so hard when we're trying to figure out for ourselves what is our passion, you know? But a lot of times our passions have already been stitched into us by God. It's already there and it's so obvious to everybody else except us. And so for your cousin to share that with you, I think that's such an important lesson for all of us is whenever you get that chance to share with somebody how great they are and they will rise to that.
absolutely. I'm so thankful for her.
So you started your business. What do you when you're talking to people about who they're struggling and with their debt, what do you find what messages resonate with people to help them pursue a debt-free lifestyle?
For one, I would have to say don't keep up with the Joneses because the Joneses are broke too. Uh, I'm serious. It's such a, common saying, but we don't realize that we compete with people all the time, whether we intentionally do it or not. And it's dangerous. It's not good for our psyche, our self-esteem. Learn to be content. It's a very hard thing to do because commercials even just looking at TV and just seeing, oh, I think I want that, but you didn't even know that you wanted it before you saw the commercial. All that stuff just takes money away from us and gives money to other people. So that's definitely one thing. And I would just say, just because it's your situation today doesn't mean it has to be your situation tomorrow. Um, there is freedom with not being in debt, and we don't realize it because debt is so common. But just because something is common doesn't mean that it's normal.
Do you have a little mantra or something you say in your head when you're tempted to purchase something? Because I started this a while back when I was trying to tighten things up. I think it was like I think it was during the financial crisis prior to the pandemic, but also during the pandemic, I would always like in my head just say, try to live as lean as possible. Or like I would say something like that to me to just stop it. I think I had a thought in my head the other day of, oh, I want a Starbucks, but like I've limited myself to 2 Starbucks a week because it really adds up. And then I told myself, no, you don't need a Starbucks. Just wait 10 minutes and you'll be over it. Do you do any like little self-talk to get you out of that impulse buy?
Yeah, I have 2 things. So, too much of one thing is good for nothing. My mom used to say it all the time, and everything in moderation. Um, and then after those things, if those sayings don't work and I still want it, I just have to say sleep on it. And if I'm literally thinking about it before I go to bed, waking up, I'm thinking about it, then maybe it's worth buying. But if it's not in the budget, then, I will survive. We really only need, food, shelter, clothing, and clothing to a certain extent. And of course, transportation if you have to, get around, get to work. So, if you're surviving before it, you'll probably survive after it. Just learn. Just the microwave society is it's not the way to go. We have to learn to wait for things, and it's hard, but it definitely is worth it.
All right, I want to ask you a couple questions because obviously I work with a lot of young people starting out in their careers. very much want to go out on their own and start their own business. You did that after, um, well, I guess you did it about like 10 years after graduation. No, like
No,
less than that.
don't make me feel old.
7 years. I mean, you did it pretty soon. You did it early. So
Yeah,
yeah,
about 6 years after graduation.
6 years. I mean, that's amazing. When
Thank you.
I always get this question. So since you're kind of expert now in financial advice, but also you have your own business, when do you take the leap? Like when is it safe to say, I'm going to start my own business because now it's all on you to make the money? When you take that leap and stop working for somebody else, do you do it all at once? Do you recommend doing it gradually, like keep working for somebody and build your business? What is your recommendation?
So I would recommend at least keeping the job that you have if you can. If it's feasible, do that because even if you have a plan, which I always recommend just planning it out, you got to do your research. Do you need licensing? Is it going to cost anything to run this business or to, be licensed to run the business? All those kinds of things you have to lay out and figure, okay, how much am I going to make? But there's nothing set in stone, nothing is promised. So if you can work for someone and do that at the same time, absolutely do that because it would take the pressure and stress off of you. I would also say there's no perfect time to start a business. You can always find some excuse. I'm sure I had a million excuses. Just fear alone. I was so worried. I had a mentor who convinced me, you can start this. And I did it out of fear and doubt, but I'm so glad that I listened. There's never going to be a perfect time to do almost anything in life, you just have to do the best that you can and just start with planning. But if you can, absolutely just have another dependable source of income before you jump in fully.
Good advice. That's what I always tell people. If there's something that's sponsoring you at the moment, take advantage of that
Yeah,
as long as you can until you're really ready to make the leap because a lot of times you just don't know what you're getting into. And then at some point, I do feel like people have to make the leap because they don't fully do their business if they're working for somebody else. You can't. You can't have like a divided mind. Would you agree?
I definitely agree. And that's a struggle now, especially being a full-time mom, so a full-time stay-at-home mom. So there are so many things that grab your attention. So if you really want this thing to be your bread and butter, you got to do what you can to just stay focused and not have other things competing.
And a business is another baby.
Yeah,
It is another baby, isn't it, Melody? It's
it
a
is.
lot of work.
It's a lot of
It's
work.
not as glamorous as it looks on TV to be an entrepreneur at all. You mentioned having a mentor. Obviously, I've enjoyed mentoring you in the very early stages, and I'm so glad we've stayed connected. But I wanted to talk about who your mentors are now and how did you find this person that basically told you just to do it?
Well, I am really thankful that I have a lot of great people at my church. So there is a gentleman who he is a wonderful artist, but he's many things. He works at Florida Atlantic University's Small Business Development Center, and so a friend at church told me about him, and so I was able to schedule some meetings with him. And I have some unofficial, I never said, will you be my mentor? But I have some unofficial people who I talk to, I ask for advice because I see the wisdom, in them and they're older, but you can learn from people who are the same age as you or younger. So I do have, I'm really thankful to have several people who, are full of wisdom and I think that they know that I come to them for advice on several occasions. But if I said that they're my mentors, they'd be like, "Oh, I didn't know that." So it may be a good idea to not put pressure on somebody and be like, "Oh, would you be my mentor?" Just so that it just flows naturally. Make it organic if you can.
Yeah, not put a label on it or make them feel like they have a huge responsibility, but definitely surround yourself with people that you want to be like, right?
Yeah.
Um, Now one last question before we wrap up. If you had to go back in time and give college-age Melody any financial advice, maybe we have some college students listening now that can learn from you, what would you tell her?
I would tell my college self, invest now. Yeah, I was really good at saving, thankfully, at that time, but investing was really risky, in my opinion. And it can be, depending on what it is. I mean, but there's always a risk in life. I would totally tell myself to invest. Just a little anecdote, if person A saved $1,000 a year starting at age 21 for 9 years, and then she just completely stopped. Um, and then person B invested $1,000 a year at age 29 for 37 years. Person A would actually have more invested by the time they reach retirement. So the only thing that made the difference is the fact that she started earlier. So invest. Even if you don't know what to invest in, get an advisor. That's what they're there for. Even if you have to pay money, just do it. Don't do too much, everything in moderation, but invest. It's really important. And I'd be milestones ahead if I had done that at that age. Even if it's $2. $2 a day is so much better than nothing, or $2 a month. Just invest something if you can.
Great advice. Get in the habit early, and you won't have to hustle so hard when you're older and you're not feeling like hustling so hard.
Exactly.
Well, Melody, what's the best way for someone to get in touch with you? Maybe they want to get financial advice from a great mentor like you. How would they get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me by calling me at my home office. My number is 954-861-0207, 954-861-0207. Call me.
Look, she's still doing
Um,
her phone number like I taught her. Okay, that's good.
yes. I also have a website that you can book a session with me. I have a complimentary session as an introductory so we can get to know each other. My website is the number 4, CENTSIBLE, finance.com. The number 4, CENTSIBLE, finance.com. And I'm on LinkedIn, Melody Stampley. Stampley. Probably didn't need to spell that, but I just do it out of habit.
Just in case. You would be surprised. Well, Melody, thank you so much for joining us today. I know you've inspired so many people in your career journey and that you're going to continue to do so. And I want everyone to share this episode so we can get more people exposed to the amazing work that Melody is doing now. And be sure to connect with her on LinkedIn and go check out her website for the number 4, sensiblefinance.com, right? And thank you so much for being here. It's been great to see you. It's been a decade since Melody and I have actually gotten face to face again, but you're just as beautiful pitching queen as you always were. Even at the end, you pitched it like a pro.
Thank you so much, Amy. It's so good to see you again, and I appreciate you so much for having me on today.
Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us plan future episodes. I hope you were inspired today by Melody to get out there, pitch, invest, save your money. Don't buy a Starbucks every day like I used to do. And most importantly, advocate for yourself and for others. Make sure you tell others what you see in them, just like Melody has had happen in her life. As a bonus, join us at anisivox.com where you can get motivated, hone your communication skills, and binge as much mentorship as you want whenever you need it. The link is in the show notes along with all of my social media handles and Melody's. So let's stay connected so we can support each other in success. And until next time, MSH. Thanks, Melody.
Thank you.